Hello and welcome. As part of our series looking at tips and tricks that new players to FF14 would want to know, we're going to take a look at items. There's a number of items that you probably should be using that you may not think you need. The first big one are potions. A lot of players forget they have potions, and that's not like me trying to talk down to them. It's just the truth of it. People forget they have potions because they don't put them on their hotbars, right? And I'm not saying you have to put them on your hotbars, even though a lot of high-end raiders will put potions of strength or things like that onto their hotbars for high-end raid so that they can just tap them as soon as they come off cooldown. But, for instance, 40% of HP sounds like a lot. 200 points max, right? That 200 HP is not going to make a huge difference for me at level 80, right? Because at level 80, I have far too much HP. 120,000 HP, 200's nothing, right? But 2,400, that's not too bad. And if we're a lower level class, where we only have 16,000, honestly, even that 200's not too bad then. And you will just get these. You will wind up having a lot of these without even realizing that you've picked them up. Having those potions to use is not a bad thing. And in a bad situation, in a Palace of the Dead, in a dungeon and the healer's dead and you as the tank need to survive, in a dungeon where you pulled and the tank won't pull off of you as a DPS, in a dungeon where you've been poisoned by a Morbol, you have antidotes. In a situation where you're doing a fate and that little bit of HP is the difference between life and death, a high potion might just save your life. You also have cordials that you want to use as a gatherer. I've seen a lot of gatherers that don't know these exist. A cordial gives you 300 GP back. That's a lot of GP. 400 GP back on a high cordial. You should be using your cordials. Even just a basic one for 300, right? It's not bad at all. Your other tonics, maybe not quite as useful. You're probably going to wind up selling those or using them in crafting recipes, but absolutely something that you should be using. Use your potions. Don't just vendor them. Because if you have a situation where you need them and you don't have them, you're going to wish that you did. And especially if you're in Eureka, I think I have some in here. No, I have put them on a retainer. Eurekan potions are incredibly helpful, especially when you need that little bit of extra health in Eureka and you're not going to make it otherwise. Another item that people often will forget to use is food. So for instance, if I eat a boiled egg here, I will get for the next 30 minutes 3% more XP. Now, you get that with any food, not just boiled eggs. And 3% more XP is actually kind of a lot. It adds up over time, right? You also get some stat ups. So boiled eggs only give critical hit plus 10%, vitality plus 1, and a direct hit rate plus 1, right? Not super helpful. But if I eat something like a sausage and sauerkraut, I'm getting a crit plus 8%, vitality plus 8%, and a skill speed plus 8%. Now, they all have maxes, right? But 81 more skill speed is pretty good. And you can get a lot of food that gives you good stat benefits for relatively cheap. So you can get these early on, have access to them when you need them, and be able to pop them. And you might say as a new player, well, Trey, when am I going to need this extra HP or this extra damage, right? Well, maybe you're in a trial and you've been struggling to beat this trial and you just want that extra buff to be able to push your way through. Or again, maybe you're in a fate and you're not going to make it through that fate and you used a potion and you can't use a potion again for another minute, 7 seconds. So you can use some food to give you a little bit extra damage or a little bit extra max HP to be able to survive. Another thing that you'll want to look at, or if you have any of these cards, these passes, you will pick these up over the course of play. Your Aetherite Pass, which reduces the fee for Aetherite travels. Your Gold Saucer Pass, which lets you get more Gold Saucer. MGP, or an engineering manual, or a crafting manual, or a gathering manual that allows you to get extra XP when you're crafting or gathering. Those things are definitely super useful to have. Bait counts as another item. If you're a fisher, you're going to want to look at your bait and make sure that you have enough of that. And then, as we talked about in the other video, your materia is something that you want to keep an eye on because you can use those materia. If you have demi materias, you can sell those. That's all they're really good for. They sell for a pretty reasonable amount. And then you may, as you journey through, wind up with a lot of stuff like this. Old goat horns and beast sinews and wing glues. And especially if you're not leveling your crafter, you're going to go, well, what do I do with this stuff? You can vendor that safely, or you can put it on the market board if you have a retainer. It's really kind of up to you. If you're not looking to level crafters, you can go ahead and vendor it. It's not really going to hurt anything. Just go to an NPC, open up their shop, and then right-click and sell. These gold pieces, bronze pieces, silver pieces, platinum pieces, those are just to sell. They give you a flat gil rate that's at the bottom of the tooltip there. You can comfortably sell those as well. They have no other uses. These triple triad cards that you're going to pick up over time, you can use them to get triple triad cards. If you already have them, they have no other use to you and can be traded in at the gold saucer. We already talked about tombstones in the gear video, so please pay attention to how many of those you have. The last big items that I would talk about are your prisms. So your glamour prisms and your glamour dispellers are going to be what you use to glam your items. And the glamour system is a really cool system in this game. For instance, well, belt's a bad idea because you won't see a difference. But for instance, we could glamour this helmet, which I currently have as the mask, to be a turban or some goggles. So if we play our gear, we can see what it would look like with the goggles instead. And then with the use of just one of those glamour prisms, we could go ahead and glamour that on there. Or we could dispel it if we decided afterwards we didn't like it. So not a big deal. You got your options. You're good to go there. Other than that, it's mostly just stuff you're going to pick up over time playing. Again, if you're not sure whether or not you should vendor it or not, go ahead and Google and see what it can be used for. If it is something that cannot be vendored, like these that are unsellable, then it means that you have a very specific use for them, and you should look to what you can use it for, because it could be really useful. But if you're not leveling your crafters or gatherers, stuff like all this is not going to be very useful to you at all. So you can comfortably sell that stuff. Let me know your questions in the comment section down below if you have any about items and their usage in this game. And until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that FF14 has to offer.